Greetings programs and welcome back to UA Dreadnoughts and patch 1.05, which did in fact, as I had thought it would, break the previous campaign that I was playing. This is just a test campaign I've been playing, but I thought I would dip into it with a video anyway, because I've been playing around to try and get a handle on how things work now. The biggest change overall in terms of kind of expansion of gameplay, at least as far as the campaign goes, is that you now have more playable nations and you also have two factions that are versus each other. Although I think at the moment the fact that you do have Britain, France and Italy versus Austria-Hungary and Imperial Germany is more to do with the fact that there really isn't a functional diplomacy system in the game at the moment. And the reason that I know that is because Italy sued for peace with me, which is a thing that individual nations apparently can still do, but it feels like an oversight because I still fight Italian ships. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you have to piece out the individual, like all three, well, in this case, all three, individual nations before the war finishes. I don't know, but I do find it odd that I am not technically at war with Italy, and if you look on the politics screen, I've got plus 100 relations, but my ships are still sinking their ships, and their ships are still trying to sink my ships. So, yeah, that is, non-functional still, even though you have now multiple nations that can fight each other. I think in future, the idea is that maybe you'll be able to form alliances between nations, or form kind of more permanent rivalries. I don't know, but yeah, none of that is possible right now, so it's all just kind of fixed in place. Now, the different nations have different difficulties. I think Britain is by far the easiest in terms of money, but they're also by far the most spread out. They have a couple of Mediterranean ports. France is kind of split between the English Channel and Bay of Biscay, and then a bunch of Mediterranean ports here. Italy is the most kind of concentrated with the greatest number of ports, but they don't have all that much cash to work with. And then I think the hardest one is Austria-Hungary, which is the one I've chosen. And as you may have noticed from this panel up here, I have 22 heavy cruisers and that's it. I was trying a rather silly thing, and I don't know if it's fully working out or not. I mean, it's been enough to gain a really nice points lead over the Italians, but it also has some quite strong drawbacks. Now, I can actually show you my current fleet. I am building a battleship and a battle cruiser, but I'm also working with somewhat limited finances. I have dumped a bunch into tech and a bunch into crew training, and I read somewhere online that the crew training is the most important thing that determines the veterancy of your crews up to a point. After they become, well, as it says, after they become trained, after that point you actually need to take them into battle to be experienced. And I don't know if you have to have sufficient crew training budget to get them to trained, or if you can get them up to being trained level just through fighting battles, because just through fighting battles it doesn't seem to give that much experience to crews. I've not had any crews become more experienced that I've noticed just from fighting battles. It's only when I've dumped 100% into my crew training budget that suddenly I have actual trained veteran crews to work with. So that is definitely an expense. The tech budget is a huge expense. I could trim quite a lot there, but I've decided that I am trying this out with going with a kind of number of small but capable ships. And what I started out with is this design here, the Helgoland, and that's actually an outdated hull, so my current one is the Lucin class, but we'll actually look at these in a little more detail so you can see exactly what I've gone for. It also shows off the refit system a bit as well, because that is also new. So triple 11-inch guns, 25 knots. I probably could have dropped the range, to be honest. We've only really been operating in the Adriatic and a little bit in the central Mediterranean. We do have some deck torp tubes, some secondaries, I have been going with capped ballistic, which are kind of one step over the bog standard armor piercing, because shell types are now a thing, and you have to choose what kind of shell types you want, which does have various effects on it. It's basically a trade-off between penetration and damage, and especially with AP you can end up having too much pen, because over pens can happen against lightly armored targets. So you might have big guns, but yeah, they might then do over pen damage, and it might take a lot longer to kill a lightly armored target. So these are more effective against bigger ships, but I have found that in terms of, even though these are basically armoured like battleships, these are sort of mini battleships, they still don't hold up that well against the Italian battleships, which have 14-inch guns. But weirdly enough, they're quite comfortable to use against the Italian battle cruisers, which have 15-inch guns, but I guess because they're just more thinly armoured. So then I refit that to something. I can't remember, I added something, but basically you just kind of refit it and create a new template, and you can then create a template of this template, and it's a way to change your existing ships. The only downside is, unlike the way, say, Hearts of Iron does it, you can't then just build the amended ship. You have to build the original ship and then refit it if you want to sort of build a new one of a class that you previously refitted. So that's a little bit annoying. I think I upgraded the armour. I think it was basically just going like from crop 3 to crop 4. I've also built this 10-gun version, which is quite expensive. It's a bit faster. I actually reduced the range there, and it's still got a pretty decent range. It's still got better range than the previous one. Much more expensive, but the only reason I'm not building some of the older ones is I cannot build them anymore because it's an outdated hull. So they are basically an upgrade in most ways, but they are a little bit worse protected in the I think the torp protection and the barbette protection is only heavy rather than barbette 4, which is like the maximum you can get. So yeah, definitely better armoured overall though, so definitely an upgrade. But I mean, they are essentially pocket battleships, I suppose you could call them that. They are very heavily armoured for cruisers, but not particularly heavily armed for battleships. The battle cruiser and the battleship I just kind of did for fun a bit, so that's a 15-inch battle cruiser. I don't know if there's anything super special going on there. 16-inch belt, so it's pretty tanky. And then the battleship is 14-inch guns, I think I went with. Or was it 15-inch? I think it's 14-inch guns. Should say somewhere 14-inch guns. There we go. So yeah, that's actually cheaper than my newest cruiser, and yeah, it's probably a bit more heavily armoured as well, but it's also slower. So yeah, if I was being economical, I would actually build more of those, but the cruisers do build a bit quicker. So this has been a bit silly. I've basically been seeing how the campaign works now, and you can see we're actually quite far ahead in terms of victory points. I don't know how well Germany is doing. They're down to 4 battleships and 1 battle cruiser. Meanwhile, Britain has tons of battleships. France and Italy don't have that many between them. I've basically killed all of their battle cruisers. They might have more being built on the way, and I have taken out a couple of their battleships, but it needs quite a large group of my heavy cruisers, my pocket battleships, to actually do it. But in terms of everything else I might face, their heavy cruisers, light cruisers, destroyers, etc. Well, actually no, that is all the rest of it. Yeah, my heavy cruisers can take them down with ease. The main thing I have lost a couple of heavy cruisers to is destroyers, because the destroyers are sneaky and you often don't see them until they've already put torpedoes out in the water. So if I know I'm going to be facing a lot of destroyers, I have to take a lot of preemptive avoiding action, because I just can't detect them before I'm well within their torpedo range. So we'll see if any messages pop up. I've had multiple messages pop up about Germany overspending. They've already dismissed one chief of, one admiral, one head of the navy over it, and their next one, I think it was either the start of this turn or the last turn, but yeah, we had the exact same event pop up of they've been warned. So presumably, if that happens too often, they just get dismissed. So yeah, Germany's finances are struggling. So it seems to be just the victory points I am farming against the Italians that is keeping me or keeping this campaign going. The Italians, which I remind you I am technically at peace with. I could try and take on the French a bit more as well. I was hoping by making peace with the Italians I could then just kind of ignore them and then do more with the French, but no, because the Italian forces are still swarming around, I can't really do anything against the French, much let alone the British. So anyway, I could try attacking this convoy, but it's only 3 ships versus, I mean, there's 2 battleships there. It does tend to match tonnage versus tonnage. So in terms of how we match up, I probably am about where they are in terms of the overall tonnage. But those battleships are something to be wary of. This is one where we could try and withdraw, but what I'm going to do is see if I can pick off maybe 1 or 2 cruisers, because if you can sink 1 or 2 ships, as long as you don't lose any ships yourself, so we've got 2 groups, that still counts as a win. You might have taken a fair bit of damage on your ships, but that will still count as a win in terms of who is counted as the victor and who gets the more victory points. So we'll give it a go. Also, be very careful with torpedoes. We've had a couple of friendly fire incidents already because the AI is really not very clever or careful about firing torpedoes when there are allies nearby. They will just fire them off willy-nilly, and so I have learned to be rather cautious about that. Anyway, smoke to the southwest. They will probably see me before I see them. These don't seem great at spotting, although, to be honest, I don't 100% know how spotting works in terms of when you see an enemy versus them seeing you. I think it's just a fixed value based on your own ship's silhouette. I don't think there's any kind of debuffs going on or buffs aside from smoke. Smoke does affect spotting. But see here, the enemy ships firing at me. It's not like World of Warships where somebody firing at you actually then makes them easier to spot. There's no debuff for being on fire, for firing your guns, anything like that. So this is their battleships, I think, but there's also smoke there. Ooh, they've got 1 damaged already, because sometimes you will see ships that are damaged already. Now if this was my 5 cruisers versus their just their 2 battleships, I think I would maybe give it a go, but those 14-inch guns do hit rather hard, and you basically cannot get close enough. We just, yeah, that's what I mean about torpedoes. In terms of, we need to turn on the warning torpedoes. No, we were already in the turn. Oh, hello, wait. Oh, but did I just dodge that and it just went through the trail? Right, let's also turn the speed down a bit, because actually then having the reaction time for torpedoes is rather contingent on yeah. So Spalato has lost an engine and has flooded a bit, but really we just want to try and sink a cruiser or a destroyer or something and then get out if possible. This hasn't always 100% worked out. There have been occasions where I've thought, okay, just quick in and out, we'll just go in, sink a ship, it'll be fine, and I've lost a cruiser. Right, they've already lost a turret, which is not so good. What is that? That's going to be a cruiser, right? Yes. Right, I think we want to angle our ships away. This is actually a better balanced design in terms of pitch and roll than the newer cruiser. they have added pitch and roll as something you need to be aware of when you're making ships, and trying to keep your pitch within sort of reasonably tolerable limits is incredibly hard, especially on some hulls, to the point where I'm wondering if they've overtuned it a bit in terms of balance. I might actually put the Spalato, they're all doing avoidance things at the moment, let's put the Spalato into its own group and have it retreat. Oh, the Helgoland's just taken a nasty hit as well, okay. Right, we really need to just sink something. Sink some of their screens. See if we can get them to drop torps against that. Let's just turn you all the way around. I do wonder if this would be possible with more like light cruisers, lots and lots of light cruisers. You'd have smoke screens available as a thing, but yeah. Right, we are avoiding those, that's fine. I can possibly just start set to retreat now. Is everyone firing on that cruiser? Yes. So if I'm able to run away at this point, that's basically going to be a win for me, even though we've taken some heavy damage on some of these ships. First group's fine, but that's lost 2 engines. That's going to be limping back. It's also less than 80% structural, as is that. It's nothing a couple of months repair won't fix, but yeah, given that I have a limited number of ships, a couple of months repair is potentially a little bit painful, and also repairing your ships does cost money, so if you're having to repair lots of ships at once, that can get expensive. Right, Helgoland. We'll also put that in a separate group and say retreat. And that's my phone buzzing because it's been getting lots of alerts from the Aurora Borealis app I have, which is not much use during the middle of the day, but then when we've been getting them in the evenings, it's been too bloody cloudy to see it then either, so yeah, it's been the usual thing. There have been some I think the last couple of weeks there have been some fairly spectacular displays, so the sun's obviously feeling very active at the moment in terms of you know, giving us nice nighttime displays, or nice if you live somewhere where you actually get to bloody see it. There was those spectacular displays earlier in the year where they could see it from really quite far down south in the UK, which is really unusual. It's usually here, the sort of northern tip of Scotland and places like the Shetlands and the Orkneys, the Northern Isles, where you're able to see it with any even slight reliability. But no, of course, it was cloudy here. They were seeing it in places like bloody Norfolk, but could we see it in the Western Isles? No, don't be silly. That's a ridiculous thought. Right, so we have 3 relatively undamaged ships. Those 2 are withdrawing. They can still see us enough to... Oh, do I get greedy and go for this cruiser? I think I'll be sensible. We've actually... We've had the kill that we needed in order for this to be a win. We might end up losing more crew overall, but they'll have lost a ship and we won't. So yeah, we'll speed this up, and I'll probably have to fast forward things a little bit as well. Right, so there you go. We heavily damaged one of their light cruisers, sank a destroyer, which was worth more victory points. We even though we lost like twice as many crew, that still counts as a win. So yeah, we didn't lose any ships, crucially. Crew we can replenish, especially with my maxed out crew training. So yeah, it's not a lot of extra victory points, but it's still some. Now in this case, this is a potential shore bombardment. Okay, can we move that screen around? Messina is there, I think. We would have to basically decisively beat all of these ships. Like, I think we have to sink all of them in order to successfully do the shore bombardment, the port strike. There is a battleship in play, but I have got, what is that, 7? 7 of my heavy cruisers, so I fancy my chances. So an advantage and a disadvantage of having relatively small numbers of ships is you get to do these like you get a lot more of these sort of small scale raiding type missions, and that's good in one way, but it also means that anytime there's any kind of heavy forces arrayed against you, it's quite tricky. This is the Italian equivalent of that heavy cruiser hull I'm using, which is basically, yeah, this is a heavy cruiser hull. I know it looks like HMS Dreadnought, but this is a heavy cruiser hull, so it's like a mini Dreadnought hull. So you can do the exact same thing with the Italians, except you get the side-mounted guns. Right, this is their battleship. So what have they got? These heavy cruisers have 8-inch guns, and they've got like a light cruiser or something we haven't spotted yet. So I guess we focus the battleship for now, because that is the main threat by far. And there is some kind of torpedo something in play, but I think the light, was it one light cruiser? That is the biggest threat. So confusingly, that group is actually the lead group. Right, so because we have trained crews, our chances to hit should be quite good. We're actually getting bonuses from crew training instead of malices. I kind of wish in retrospect I'd gone with 2 barrels, and I could have refitted these for 2 barrels actually, because you get minus 15% for 3 barrels. So I could have, you know, it would have severely lessened the amount of firepower, but it also would have made the firepower that much more accurate. Do you want to turn in or do I want to turn away? Let's turn away for now. We've already had that just from that initial hit. Had that switch side. So that's going to be their light cruiser, which is smoked up for no reason whatsoever. These are HE shells coming in. Okay. I have read and heard elsewhere that high explosive is kind of a bit overpowered, but I'm guessing that is also to do with what choices you make in terms of your high explosive shells. So yeah, they are knocking some lumps out of my lead group here, but we just have so many more ships available to actually... is that within torpedo range? What is my torpedo range? 9.5. If I put that on normal, are you going to? No, okay. Set that back to safe. Yeah, sometimes you can get them to almost hold on to their torps and get them to fire off a slightly less certain spread by just switching mode like that. And when you've got a clump of ships like that, that's about the best way of doing it, because you can't force them to manually fire torpedoes. Should we actually turn this group about and have them sort of hit things from 2 directions? I basically want to do as much to their battleship as possible, because this is by far the biggest threat. The heavy cruisers I know I can handle with ease. They're already trying to fall back a bit. Don't think they've spotted any torpedoes yet. All 3 of this group have had engine damage, but I think they're switching focus to these guys now that they're getting a bit closer. I'm not entirely sure how the AI prioritizes things yet. I think it will always prioritize destroyers over everything else. but I don't know if it then has some kind of sub-prioritization of, oh, this thing has torpedoes, therefore we shoot at it first, or if it's like, oh, we must shoot the thing that's closest. Right, we are doing significant damage, and I think this is all high explosive. I wonder what happens if we switch this group to AP. You can also control your secondaries now. So there you go, you actually see it's a different looking shell there. That just even got in the way of... There was just such a lot of fire going in. That wasn't even torpedo. Like everyone was. I think some of the initial shots were at one of these heavy cruisers, but yeah, everyone was just. Oh yeah, you're about to take a torpedo. Oh yeah, you're done for. So just from high explosive alone, we have almost exclusively we have just absolutely wrecked this battleship. So you just need the sheer weight of fire, basically. And then one of those battleships is not that much of a problem, but yeah, you need quite a lot of these cruisers to deal with it. But the problem is you don't often get just lone single battleships, or even battleships with a couple of escorts. Occasionally the AI does that. I've seen them on occasion just send out a lone battleship, and you're like, okay, thank you for the free gift. I will take your offering. Switch that back to auto. Yeah, that's not a happy camper. I can get all of these. Man, this is going to be worth a boatload of victory points. But I don't know what the tipping point is. I mean, I don't know if it's the same as... is there some kind of cumulative total? Because I've already theoretically knocked out the Italians. They already sued for peace, which then hasn't stuck because the game apparently wasn't really expecting me to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it works with getting everybody to sue for peace. So this campaign might end up going on for a really long time. I guess we'll see. If it is a longer campaign, though, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it might get a bit tedious. Like the way I was recording the previous campaign and the way I'm recording this, of sitting down for like an hour and then just recording a battle or two, that's probably the best way to play the game overall. Because if you do it for longer than that, it can get a bit kind of... you can get to a point where it's just like, okay, oh, another convoy, okay. So yeah, I don't know if I'd want to make a full campaign series out of this campaign until I know a little better what I'm doing, and also maybe until they patch some of the rougher edges and bugs. There's definitely some bugs as well. There's a weird one, well, not weird, but easily abusable, where if you slam on the brakes, it's supposed to cause engine damage. Like, if you're not going at low speed, slamming the engine in reverse is supposed to do really bad things to your engine, at least on a temporary basis. But no, you slow down super quick and it does absolutely no engine damage at all. So that is completely bugged at the moment and very, very abusable. Yeah, this guy's not going to last too much longer. Well, this has been, to be honest, actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. I think the high explosive I'm using on these is... don't know if I can see where it is. Damage HE, yeah. I think it is the kind of max damage min pen high explosive, which is possibly the most broken kind right now. I'm definitely not using the max penetration AP shells. You can also use semi-armor piercing as an option. I've not really tried that. I don't know if it would be a great idea with these bigger guns. But I might do, just as an experiment. Either with a refit or in some other campaign. I mean, there's nothing to stop me creating refit and then just refitting one ship with SAP. So I don't know how effective battleship caliber SAP will be in this game, but it might be interesting to find out. Yeah, you're not going to last too much longer. Well, this all ought to be worth a fair amount of points, but we can speed this right up. Barring flash fires or anything equally unfortunate, which I don't think I've had with any of these cruisers yet. It doesn't seem likely that we're even going to have, like, this is the most damaged one, that's 83%. 82%, so yeah, a little bit of dockyard repair time, but we just knocked out several heavy cruisers and a battleship. So although these are utterly cost inefficient and don't really allow me the firepower to take on really large battles, it's still kind of working as a strategy. I mean, to be honest, the biggest overall challenge for either Germany or Austria-Hungary is the fact that they are so far apart on the map. Italy, France and UK all have some kind of shared overlapping, not territory exactly, but in terms of the sea space where their various bases are. I mean, Britain's all through the Med. So you can have French and British ships fighting together against the Germans, you can have French and Italian ships fighting against the Austro-Hungarians, but there's not really any way for Austro-Hungarian and German fleets to fight with each other. Unless you somehow moved a fleet all the way up through the English Channel. But I don't think you can actually base your ships at Allied ports. I don't think that's a thing. Right, I was actually expecting a little bit more, but still, that's almost 4,000 victory points. And wowee, 36,000. Now, is that port damage or is that victory points? And does port damage reduce the amount of like tonnage that they can harbour there? I don't know. If it's 36,000, that will have gone up by a heck of a lot. What was it at before? Was it? I don't know. I don't know if it really. I don't think it was 36,000. And I don't know if we've knocked off any port capacity, because there's no way to add port capacity. You can click on ports to move ships around, which is what all these symbols are. I've been keeping mine in port because, generally speaking, it's not been worth moving them out of port. I've only got 3 ports. They're all close together, and if I try and blockade enemy ports, Italy still has overall a fair more ships than I do. So unless I move all of my cruisers out together en masse, yeah. So, yeah, we'll do one more turn and then we'll see what pops up, and then we'll maybe... I don't want this to be a super long video. And yeah, another warning to the head of German Admiralty, so he is going to get booted if they get sending that happening again. Oh, okay. Another potential attack. It's just a straight battle. We can... potentially try and delay or withdraw. Well, we'll go for it. It might be interesting to try this strategy with other nations. I think that's probably the main draw of this at the moment is just playing around, looking at different strategies that you can try and use, and also then trying those strategies with different nations and in different time frames, because of course they'll have different techs and different hulls available. So yeah, it could potentially make quite a difference. Like doing this with the Brits, for instance. I don't know what heavy cruiser hulls they have, or if they would be anything like as effective. Maybe they can't put 11-inch guns on their heavy cruisers. Maybe they can. Maybe everyone can. I don't know. Right, that's us spotted, so there must be something reasonably close. One thing I was going to mention on the map screen actually is that yeah, you can have one campaign save at the moment, and there's no way to save. It's whenever you do something, it basically just kind of auto saves like it would in, say, Kerbal Space Program, except without the possibility of making a manual save. So yeah, that's a little bit annoying. You can't try out multiple different things in different campaigns at once. And another thing that is annoying about that actually is you can scrap ships from your fleet list, but there's no warning button if you do. You just click the scrap button and it goes, boop, ship deleted. And I've done that once already and it was really annoying, and I thought I'll just Alt F4 and hopefully it won't have saved that thing happening, but it had. So yeah, that's something it really could use doing with, is a kind of, did you mean to press the scrap button? Did you mean to do that? Because in that instance, no, I did not. And it was many months of construction time wasted, and there wasn't anything I could do about it except just harumph. Who's closer? 1.9. Well, these are heavy cruisers were spotted. I don't know if we'll... Last time we got really lucky with our positioning, our opening positioning rather, but let's be a bit more cautious this time. But even if we only get down a heavy cruiser, what is that? It's a light cruiser. Always kill the things with torpedoes first. It's a good strategy, both in here and World of Warships. Right, how are we doing? We don't have torp avoidance on yet, but we'll probably want to stick that on at some point. Doing some things to that heavy cruiser. Yeah, there we go, already torpedoes in the water. The AI fleets do seem to fairly well concentrate their firepower. They don't really ever seem to split their firepower. I mean, yeah, I think you still see them sometimes doing things like firing main guns at something and secondaries at something else, but yeah, for the most part they seem to just concentrate all on one thing. Whereas sometimes it's quite useful to have it's a light cruiser. That one's in trouble. Yeah, there we go, got a torpedo hit. That was one of ours, right? I have seen AI ships torpedo... Yeah, it was one of ours. I have seen AI ships torpedo their allies as well. Or enemy ships torpedo their allies, rather. Right, I think it's going to be a similar strategy. Just try and get in, sink some ships. Basically that first battle, not necessarily try and kill everything. If you've only played the scenarios up to this point, where the MO is always you have to kill everything, the enemy will never retreat. Yeah, that's not how you want to be playing your campaign battles. Sometimes you do want to retreat if possible. There's one thing where the newer class of cruisers with the extra 2 knots will come in quite handy. Well, 25 knots is still pretty decent. That's not slow. Oh, actually no, yes, let's have you fire at the light cruisers. So that's our light cruiser as well. The battleship looks like he's falling back a bit. Don't know if they've got any... I don't remember if I saw any destroyers in that list. Whoa, hello. Let's have you turn tight in. That's a cruiser torpedo, just a single torp. We are at the stages where you get deck-mounted torp launchers, but I've not seen any enemy ships with them apart from their destroyers. So these are the submerged tubes. The deck-mounted ones definitely get knocked out a lot more often, but yeah, they overall have the advantage of flexibility. Right, the Stayer's taken some big hits from something. So overall actually done more damage, which is quite nice. I'm sure a big chunk of that was that torpedo hit. So yeah, we can just strip out their cruiser support. We might actually get a shot at this battleship, which is full health unfortunately. We do outrun their battleships by a fair bit. By a good couple of knots. Let's change course again. It's probably going to be torpedoes incoming again at some point. Are we firing at the heavy cruiser? Yes, everyone's firing at the heavy cruiser right now. I'd actually quite like you to fire at that light cruiser. Torpedoes are the truly dangerous things. Although for them the heavy cruiser is the closer target, so that's fine. That's going to be a light cruiser, right? Yeah. No, I keep clicking on that group because that's the unfolded group. Right, torpedoes incoming. I'll actually set top avoidance on just in case, although I don't think anyone's going to run into those. Actually, let's turn that off because they'll do the headless chicken dance. Oh no, wait, there is some coming in that might be a problem. Oh, that's a light cruiser as well. I misidentified that. I thought that was a heavy for some reason. Right, go for the closer one, because I specifically told you not to do that. See, now you're running into even more torpedoes! Well, you're trying to. I think this counts as disobeying orders. Somebody court-martial that captain. Also, yeah, they've gotten completely snarled up from the collision avoidance thing. Turn that off temporarily. Right, kill this cruiser before it lays more eggs. Let's also basically want to kill that and try and make a turn, because that's going to be dropping torpedoes from the side soon. Nope, 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 nope. Turn, turn, turn. This is where the overpens are a bit of an issue. Maybe going full SAP would actually be kind of handy. But the flooding's going to get them sooner rather than later, so yeah. Right, we want you to... That should be your main... You're not going to drop? No, apparently that's not a good angle for it. Oh, no, there we go, did it. That is another heavy cruiser. Okay, not too worried about them. My belt armor is decently strong against the 8-inch guns, so really not too worried about them. Right, have you untangled yourself? Because that would be good if you could not get all snarled up like that. Right, let's keep a close eye on this group that's in the thick of it right now. Switch everything back to you. The AI control, like giving over your ships to AI control, is definitely still undesirable. That's another reason why I don't particularly like doing big battles. Because you end up having to trust at least partly the AI control, and yeah, it's not something you really want to do if possible. But sometimes you kind of have to, because beyond a certain point trying to control too many ships at once just requires you to split your attention in too many different directions. So if anyone was thinking about getting this... Oh, hello, that's Torpedo. I would... I mean, it's a playable game. It is absolutely a playable game right now. But if your attitude has been wait and see, you might want to keep waiting and keep seeing. Unfortunately, that wasn't a midships hit, which is usually what knocks out an engine. That will slow the Leopard down a bit. Well, that cruiser is not having a happy fun day. You should be all on torpedo avoidance. Everyone's swinging around so much that... yeah. Right, their battleship's actually backed way off. But we're chewing through the rest of these ships like nobody's business. I have learned to my cost that if it's a multiple battleship engagement, just don't bother. That's generally a bit too much to deal with. Right. That one is struggling for speed because they have some severe flooding. We also have some cruisers left, some heavy cruisers. That one's going down soon, and then that'll just be the battleship, which is off over there somewhere, I think. I think we can make a run at this battleship then. We're probably running a little low on... No, we're actually been using AP. In terms of ammo choices, I think it's relatively smart. There are times when you might want to override the ammo choices that the game is making, but it's going to be a torpedo. I don't know. Let's just swing round to be on the safe side. Right, you focus on the Pisa. Yes, there was a torpedo in the water. Yeah, lots of corrective manoeuvres is usually the smart thing to do. You're completely out of torpedoes at this point, so that's fine. There's the battleship. And that's the last torpedo actually just going past there. So that's fine, that's nowhere close. It's a good thing I saw that. Right, let's tag everyone's torpedoes onto the battleship because we don't want them all spewing torps out uselessly against the cruiser that we can easily gun down. I mean, these are way less armoured, 7.5 inch main belt. Quite a substantial fore and aft belt though, and a very substantial main deck. But the belt armour is just not really there. So versus 11 inch guns, yeah. Especially once I got trained crews that could actually hit things, the 11 inch guns are really nasty. Whereas those 8 inch guns are only even remotely problematic at close ranges, and it's not like it's got a lot of them. At most it can bring 4 to bear at any one time. The rest are all 7-inch guns, which are even less potent. Are you still not sunk yet? That's probably because he's bow on. Not really a threat, though. Right, oh, they have one unidentified... oh, they have a heavy cruiser left. We might actually end up being able to wipe this group as well. I really wasn't sure. I was thinking we'd just have to take out a few and maybe just get out, but no, this is going pretty well. I had 1 or 2 torpedo hits, but they are by far the greatest danger. Well, that and the battleship's 14 inches. We may yet have to end up pulling ships back. Will you just sink? Will you, though? %, 1.2. Don't know why that's quite so bad. I mean, because it's taken so much damage in the rear, it's effectively damage saturation. There's a limited amount that can be done because it's facing rear onto us. So these can't flood any more than they've flooded already. So it's just whatever damage is being done to superstructure and whatever. Right, we're gonna have to angle them round a bit so they can maybe get a slightly better shot. But these guys, apart from the stair, are all in a fairly good state. Just sink. Just sink. Stop being so awkward. You're going slower because you flooded. Okay, that makes sense. Right, now I want all of you to fire your main guns at this guy. Just finish off that light cruiser. I don't want to have to come back for him, and I don't want to leave points on the table. Right, what are you firing? Still got a fair number of AP rounds. I just have one previous engagement in this campaign where my ships got really badly mauled, but then their battleship basically completely ran out of ammo. So I hauled around my fleeing, half-crippled heavy cruisers and was able to then sink the battleship just because they had nothing left to fire at me apart from their secondaries. It's kind of funny. Right. But of course, you know, realistically, this is one of the things where the game absolutely is a game. The fact that you can see the exact ammo count of your enemies. And you can see when they've launched torpedoes, and yeah, it's all a little bit silly. Would you just sink? For goodness sake. Right, there's some additional flooding. It's not a red compartment, so they might be able to... It might not be enough to sink the ship, and they might be able to... Goodness sake. We're literally having to batter away every single piece of this ship to get it to sink. There we go. That was a very stubborn light cruiser. Right, this is a bit risky trying to get up close, because of course their accuracy goes up as well as my accuracy going up, but I think we might try a bit of a torpedo rush. And hope that it doesn't go spectacularly wrong. Ooh, that was a penetration. Nasty. Now they are pretty well angled at the moment, but my ships still have a decent supply of HE. They actually have... they've expended quite a lot of their AP shells, so plenty of HE is not a bad thing for dealing with this battleship. We need this group to chug their way there as quickly as possible. I really don't want to let this battleship get away. making them build another battleship is so expensive and so time consuming for them that I absolutely would like to sink this if possible, but I don't want to lose any of my own ships. It's not worth that, because that's expensive and time consuming for me. But I think Krems is still the lead ship. I'm trying to angle a bit, but yeah, we're still taking some penetrations. No, okay, the Klagenfurt's taken over. I don't know, maybe we just keep our distance a bit. You guys need to hurry up and catch up. I don't think we have the speed to try a torpedo rush. I think that's just not going to work. Krems we might have maybe fall back just because they are pretty beat up. Yeah, the entire front section of the ship is a shambles. I don't know why it's not moving though. Oh, I think it was just the fact that there's other ships that are causing it to, yeah. Right, we are wearing down this battleship, but yeah, it is coming at a cost. It's absolutely coming at a cost. The 4 belt armor is not nearly as good as the enemy heavy cruisers, so these ones don't bow tank very well. The main belt armor pretty damn good for a heavy cruiser, and in fact I think it's comparable to what they have. Yeah, they have got a 12.9 inch main belt. I've got a 12. Does it say 12 yeah, 11.9. So we have as good belt armor, but our extremities are not nearly as well protected. But if you have lots of extremity armor, that then affects the pitch of your ship. So that's one of the ways in which I managed to make this a reasonably balanced ship. I think I put more extremity armor on the newer class, but I also have a much worse pitch instability on that class. Ooh, is that 4 deck pen? 4 belts? 4 deck? Yeah. Stop shooting the weaker armour. You're only allowed to shoot the thick armour. If you shoot the weak armour, that's cheating. Oh, whittling them down though. Alright, yeah, I'll just get Krems out of there. That's the most in danger of actually sinking. Although the Klagenfurt's not looking that much better. I don't know, we might just have to let this ship go. Our circumstances for this battle were not nearly as advantageous as the previous one, where we basically started within firing range of each other. Sometimes you get improbably close when you start the battle, and it's like, well, okay, apparently everyone just kind of sailed up next to each other and kind of waved, and then decided they were going to start shooting. I don't know. Right, well, it's giving me the choice to, the chance to end battle there, and I think we'll take it, to be honest. There's a possibility I could wait out the supply of ammo, but my ships were starting to run low on ammo as well, and a lot of them are fairly damaged. That's still a fair whack of victory points. 4 light cruisers, 4 heavy cruisers, and 1 badly damaged battleship, which they will have to repair. So, yeah, I mean, one of their battleships is worth less than one of my heavy cruisers. It's worth more to me to keep my cruisers alive. So, I think we'll wrap up the video there. that is the current state of the game, and although I'm not playing a particularly sensible campaign, it's still somehow working. Somehow we are still somehow beating Britain, France and Italy combined, and I think it's mainly my efforts in getting victory points, because man, the Germans seem to be struggling. I think if I do a proper campaign for the channel, it will probably be one of the, it'll be like Germany or Britain or something like that, one of the big ones with more money to play with. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it, and if you have, you can do all the usual things down underneath it, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.